Good evening and welcome into another edition of Roundball Roundup. I'm Mark Skoll Jr. Megan has the night off. Playoffs are right around the corner as we find out the sectional pairings this Sunday, but all the local teams cared about winning tonight. First, we start out with a big-time rivalry at Algae Oldham Gym between the Riley Wildcats and the Adams Eagles in the first quarter. Blake Wesley finds Jackson Copley underneath for the first bucket of the night, but then the Eagles kicked it into gear as Braden Saxton finds Quintez Columbus and he knocks down the J. Adams takes the lead. Later on, Sidney Jeffries is left all alone in the corner of downtown and he knocks it down. Adams continues to roll. A few possessions later, the Eagles get it to their big man, Lynn King, down low, and no one is stopping him as he finishes in the paint. Adams wins 61-55. They get a share of the NIC championship, and head coach Chad Johnston is now tied for the third most wins in South Bend School's history. To Demetrius Jackson Court in Mishawaka as the Marion Knights host the Penn Kingsmen. We pick up the action in the second quarter. Tight game, but the Knights get it to the sharpshooter, Michael Boffman. He connects from deep. Marion up 24-19. Later on, Jerry Bracey gets it to Kaleo Kakilia, and he lays it in just how they drew it up. Marion extends its lead to 7. A few minutes later, Evan Groves is off the mark from deep, but the big fella, Tobias Patton, is there for the rebound and the putback. However, Penn still trails by 7, and the Kingsmen were unable to catch up as Mitchell Menting finds Kakilia inside, and he finishes inside. Marion wins over Penn 63-54. We head now to the Cave in Mishawaka as the Cavemen welcome in the John Glenn Falcons. We pick up the action in the second half. Trent Johnson gets into the paint, stops, pops, and gets it to drop off the shooter's touch. That puts Mishawaka up 41-25, but the 14-6 Falcons kept fighting as Rob Porter knocks down the jumper. He was feeling it at the Cave tonight. Later on, Porter tries to keep the magic going. He's off, but check out the hustle by Bryson Hanna. He gets the board again, and then tips it in. John Glenn is now only down by 10, but then Raheem Brayton drives into the lane, cocks it back, and lays it in. Mishawaka tops Glenn 54-46. Elsewhere in the Hoosier State, Northwood takes care of business against Elkhart Christian 59-48. Knox wins over South Central 55-35, and Wawasee loses to East Noble 53-36. To Elkhart County we go as the Jimtown Jimmies look to take it to the Clay Colonials. We start out in the third quarter, Jimtown up 16-11. Clay trying to keep it close as Ronte Johnson gets it to the 6'7" forward, Anthony Neal, who makes the layup. Hard to block a tower in the paint. Later on, Jimtown's tower, Preston Phillips, he's also 6'7". He gets to the rim for the layup. That puts Jimtown back up by 5. This one was back and forth for a while out at Jimtown High School. A few minutes later, Jahan Horton finds Robert Allen, and he drains the 3. It's a 2-point ball game. However, it was the Jimmy's night as Preston Phillips dishes it to a cutting Braden Rice as he goes back door and he cashes in. Jimtown wins over Clay 52-42. We head now to historic Northside Gym in Elkhart as the Elkhart Central Blue Blazers take on Washington in the fourth quarter. Some hot potato action for the Blazers, and eventually Ty Whitney gets the rock underneath for the bucket, but Elkhart Central down big, and that in large part had to do with the dominant Washington senior class. DeMarcus Vaughn misses the layup, but Jalen Petty cleans up the mess and lays it in. That puts the Panthers up by 20. Central kept up the fight, though. Isaiah Chandler's off the mark. However, Luke Tite gets the rebound and makes the jumper at the elbow, but it was the Panthers who were on the prowl tonight as Terrence Reed passes on the inbounds to Jalen Petty, who makes the quick layup. Washington wins over Elkhart Central 67-46. Now, we were witnesses to history tonight at Goshen High School as the Redhawks welcome in the Westview Warriors. In the first quarter, Drew Hogan with the bounce pass to Blake Weiss on the baseline, and he sinks the J. That's the first bucket of the night, but the crowd was here to see the 2,000-point man, Charlie Yoder, as he makes his way around all of the Goshen defense for the layup. And just like that, we are all tied up. A few minutes later, Gerard Byler hits Ryan Harmlink at the top of the arc, and Harmlink is money. Drains the 3. Goshen back out in front, but tonight, Charlie Yoder, like every night, was the star as he gets the ball from Drew Litweiler and then makes another layup down low. Yoder scored 30 points tonight as Westview wins over Goshen 54-45, and head coach Rob Yoder gets his 300th career win. To some scores for you from the Hoosier State. Prairie Heights takes down Lakeland 65-40. Tippecanoe Valley beats Triton in overtime 51-48, and Oregon Davis wins over Lakeland Christian 65-55. Our next stop is at Bremen High School as the Lions look to upset the New Prairie Cougars. We kick things off at the top of the first. Tony Harden sneaks past the New Prairie defense, gets the wide open layup to go. David Swanson gets it in the paint and then nearly loses the ball. He quickly recovers and finishes strong through multiple defenders. Nice play there. Later in the first, Bremen's Carson Miller cooks up a post move of his own, dribbles, fades, splashes the tough jumper. A few possessions later, Rylan McBride catches it at the top of the key. He lets it fly. Nothing but net. Bremen goes on to win 37-32. To our final game of the night, we're at Cox Gymnasium for the battle between Caston and LaVille. We pick things up at the top of the second. Caston puts on a passing clinic and eventually finds Cade Zeider in the corner. That one goes in. He nails the three. The Comets down by quite a bit, though. Meanwhile, LaVille's Jimmy Fisher scans the court and he dishes it to Connor Wazorek for the catch and shoot three. LaVille up big time. Later in the quarter, Luke Lowe makes a strong move to the basket, throws a beautiful pass to Hunter Schwab down low. He finishes with the left, adds 2 points for Caston. Looking to pad their lead, Jimmy Fisher passes it to Bobby Good at the top of the arc, and that three is good. LaVille rolls over Caston 64-31. Here are some more Michigan scores for you. Buchanan tops Brandywine 54-44 for the Bobcats' second loss of the season. The Lakeshore Lancers take down Mattawan 63-32, and St. Joseph wins over Niles 55-42. For a full list of scores, be sure and head on over to WNDU.com. And of course, tomorrow, semi-state for the Northwood and Penn girls basketball teams. We will be at LaPorte High School for full coverage of the semi-state action. As for wrestling, Mishawaka's Joe Walker and Jacob LaPlace advance to the state quarterfinals, as well as Plymouth's Andrew Himes and Graham Calhoun. Northwood's Jake Lone is moving on as well.